Have you ever caught yourself muttering your to-do list out loud? Or maybe, spend an entire hour analyzing a one-word text message? Well, today we're diving into some of those fascinating and, let's be honest, kind of strange habits that might not be quirks at all, but actually the telltale signs of a truly brilliant mind. You know that feeling, right? When you're pretty sure the way you process the world is just different. Maybe you talk to yourself or you get completely lost in a spiral of overthinking a single emoji. Well, what if I told you that wasn't a glitch? That is the heart of what we're exploring today. We're going to reframe these so-called weird habits, not as bugs that need to be fixed, but as incredibly powerful features that often come with high intelligence. So let's dive right in. Okay, so first up, let's take a little trip into that super busy, nonstop place, your overactive inner world. And we're going to start with a classic habit that I think a lot of us are probably a little bit guilty of. Yep, talking to yourself. Come on, we've all been there, right? Muttering under our breath while looking for our keys or, narrating our grocery list in an empty aisle. It's so easy to feel embarrassed, but you really, really shouldn't. So the common perception is, oh man, you're losing it. But the psychological mechanism behind it, it's way more interesting. You're actually thinking out loud to think better. It's a way for your brain to kind of shift gears into a more deliberate, organized mode. And get this, there's a really cool scientific term for it: externalized metacognition. Basically, when you put your thoughts into actual words, you're creating a mental blueprint. It helps you solve problems, it helps you lock in information, and it keeps you focused. Even Einstein was known for mumbling to himself, so you're in pretty brilliant company.
All right, next up in our overactive inner world tour, the fine art of overthinking. This is for absolutely everyone who has ever sent a simple email and then spent the next hour dissecting every single word choice and punctuation mark. And this is the loop, isn't it? Something super simple happens. Then your brain starts running these incredibly complex mental simulations, just exploring every possible angle, every potential outcome. And before you know it, you are trapped in that classic what-if worry cycle, completely convinced that the period at the end of "sounds good, thanks" made you sound angry. I know, it can feel absolutely exhausting, but this tendency is actually a superpower. That constant simulation is precisely what helps you see connections, anticipate problems, and find solutions that other people might just miss. Think of it as a pattern recognition engine that's just running at full speed all the time. So, with this intense inner world buzzing away, how does that affect how we actually interact with other people? Well, that brings us right to our next section, your unconventional social brain. Social awkwardness. That painful feeling when you just don't know what to do with your hands, or when you say something in a group conversation and you're just met with complete silence. It's cringy for sure, but it might just mean your brain is operating on a totally different frequency. So often the feeling is, ugh, I'm just bad at this. But the cause could be that your brain is simply processing way too much, way too fast. You're not just listening. You're tracking your own words, how others might interpret them, and all the possible directions the conversation could go. You're so focused on the future of the chat that you kind of miss the present moment, and that's what throws your timing off. And here is the really crucial trade-off. You might be a little awkward at parties, but you're often absolutely brilliant with complex problems. People with these traits, they often excel in fields that demand deep, abstract thinking. Math, science, programming. That same mental horsepower that trips you up in small talk, it becomes your greatest asset when things get really complicated. This brings us right to the next habit, a powerful, almost desperate need for solitude. And it's not about being antisocial, it's all about managing your system's resources. This captures it perfectly. It's not about disliking people, it's about bandwidth. If your brain is wired to just take in more data, more subtle social cues, more background noise, more emotional undercurrents, socializing can feel like a total information overload. You just reach a point where your mental bandwidth is full, and you simply have to reboot. Think of it this way. Alone time isn't an escape from life. It's the dedicated space you need to process everything you've absorbed. It's where you get to sort through all the patterns, connect the different ideas, and just let your thoughts finally catch up. It's the workshop where your most innovative and creative ideas are actually forged. And that whole workshop idea leads us perfectly into our final section, the habits that fuel your creative engine. And we're starting with one that I think pretty much everyone can relate to. Procrastination. The act of sitting down to do really important work and then suddenly finding yourself reorganizing your bookshelf or watching a 3-hour documentary on a topic you didn't even care about 5 minutes ago, it feels like a total failure of willpower. But there's another way to look at it. So the feeling is that you're just avoiding your responsibilities, right? But what if the function is actually a subconscious strategy? By waiting until that deadline is looming, you're basically manufacturing the exact amount of pressure you need to cut through all the noise. And then suddenly all the distractions just fall away, and your brain achieves this state of hyper-focus that was just impossible before. Okay, our final habit is another one that was probably discouraged back in school: doodling in the margins of your notebook or restlessly bouncing your leg during a long meeting. It's so often seen as a sign that you're just not paying attention. But research shows the opposite is often true. You can think of it as surplus energy channeling. See, when an environment isn't stimulating enough, a highly active brain can start to wander off completely. Fidgeting or doodling gives it a simple side quest, a low-level physical task that keeps the cognitive channels open and engaged, which prevents your focus from totally drifting away. It's why people like Steve Jobs are always pacing. They were channeling that energy to stay sharp. So, let's bring it all together. Talking to yourself isn't madness, it's you building a blueprint for your thoughts. Overthinking isn't just worry, it's a powerful pattern recognition engine. That social awkwardness, it can just mean your brain is 10 steps ahead. Needing alone time, that's how you create the workshop for your best ideas. Procrastination is a way to manufacture focus, and doodling channels energy to help you stay engaged. Every one of these perceived flaws is just a different expression of a highly active and intelligent mind. And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. I want you to look at your own quirks, your own so-called weird habits, and ask yourself, which one of those supposed bugs might actually be your most powerful, most brilliant feature?